Hi, I'm Donna Joriasha from Living Through Heart. And today I want to talk to you about something that's been happening very recently. Like I'm in it now, basically, working my way through something that's happened and what I'm making it mean about me and about myself, and basically what I'm learning from this experience. And I think it's a really, really important one. Um, I'm a lot further through it than I was about 3 hours ago. What I thought I was going to talk about is totally different to what I'm actually going to talk about. So I think I've come through a lot of it and I'm on the tail end of it. And I want to describe to you kind of the story behind what happened within me because of the story, and how I'm processing it and moving through it so that you can start to see how you can do this for yourself as well and maybe get something out of it from my story. So basically what happened is, I've been doing a lot of work on myself. I've been doing a lot of work within the tantric space and the healing space, and, with what I'm learning as a tantric practitioner training. And I realized I needed a certain experience or certain something in my life, in regards to relationship, so that I could practice what I was learning. And it just wasn't there. It wasn't forthcoming. There was no one in my life that was kind of showing up for me in that way. And I sat down and I worked out what I wanted, the framework of what I wanted. And then I opened myself to the universe of, okay, bring someone, let's manifest this. Let's bring someone to myself that I can have this with. And then the first thing I did was I actually went to somebody, and I said, this is what I want. Are you open to it, or should I start looking for people who are? And they came back and said, I'm open to experiencing this with you, and let's talk. So I was like, cool, look at me manifesting already, right? And we planned this conversation. I went down, met them, we had this conversation. And basically the end result of the conversation was that they were not at all open to what I wanted, even though it was like stated. And in fact, they weren't even hearing me on what I wanted. And they were caught up in their own story, their own trauma story, all right, and their own need for safety. And no matter what I said, I couldn't get through about what I actually was trying to create and what I wanted. And they would just loop back on their own story. Very frustrating. And it kind of reminds me, I don't know, and I've talked about this before, and it's something that comes up for me quite often. So you might have heard me mention in, the C.S. Lewis books, The Last Battle. So the final book in the Narnia series, The Last Battle. And they get caught by this invading army, and there's this stable. And inside the stable is this demon, and they're going to get thrown in there, and the demon's going to kill them. And so they get thrown into the stable. And when they get into the stable, they actually find that, because they're true in their heart and they've been faithful to Aslan, that not only are they not eaten by a demon, that there is no demon there, and they're not actually in a stable itself, they've actually gone through into Aslan's country, so into like heaven, basically. But within that, there is a group of dwarfs that have been thrown through the stable. And because they're not open, because they're not believing and they're not faithful, whatever it is, right? Whatever they're not believing in God, they can't see that they're actually in heaven, and they think that they're in a stable, and they think that they're in the dark, and they think that they're sitting in dirt and poo and hay, and they've got this beautiful banquet around them, and they're sitting on this beautiful grassy field. And they're there trying to convince them, hey, look, you're actually not in the stable, you're in Aslan's country, and there's beautiful food around your banquet. And the dwarfs hear what they're saying, but they won't believe it. And therefore, what they interpret as what they're saying is not what is actually being said. And it's that whole, like, we think something, we say something. So there's what we think, there's what we say, there's what the other person hears us say, and then there's what they think we say. And this was a magnificent example of a massive breakdown within that. And it's that interpretation at the endpoints of our belief system and our woundings and the reality of the world that we've created and the identity that we live in that we've created, which really creates a perception of what we hear people say and what we make things mean. So I had this very frustrating conversation where I was saying one thing and then they kept looping around and saying this other thing. And I'm like, I'm actually saying the total opposite. What I want is the total opposite of what you're saying that I'm saying. I'm not trying to confine you. I'm not trying to constrict you. I'm not trying to control you. I'm actually offering you freedom within this to create something amazing and still have both of us still have freedom within it. Anyway, I was very, open-minded and listening. And then I'm like, okay, well, obviously, because, it's got to be right for you as well. And then I came home and then I got really fucking angry. And for the first time ever, I just allowed the anger. So normally I would, oh no, well, you chose it and you created it and, you look at it from their point of view. And I would always swallow the anger, right? And when I look on that, that comes from very much from my father of, always having to be in control, always having to be the person with the, the high road, the mighty. And he actually used to say to me, write the letter that you want to write and then sit on it for a night and then rip it up and write the letter that you should write, being like, and look, it is very good advice sometimes, right? But when you live your life by that, you don't actually allow yourself to truly feel what is there and to explore why it's there, right? And that's the important part. Why is the fucking anger there? So for the first time ever, I let myself have this anger. I let myself breathe into the anger. I didn't let my mind interfere with it. I didn't let my mind transmute it into something else, right? Into like, oh, well, this or that, or he's like in a hard place, or blah, 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 or, oh. And I didn't allow myself to go into people pleasing and make it okay. And instead, what I allowed myself to do was tell him how angry I was, message him, tell him exactly what I was thinking and how manipulated I felt about he had said this thing, like it, and it wasn't even just said, it was written, right? Written. So it's not even like I misheard him, but obviously even within those words there was some sort of like translation error going on. And what I still don't, I can't even conceptualize what it is, right? And if I try, my head just goes off in story, so I'm not even going to go there. But it was there, right? Black and white there. So I wasn't even being misled. And this person has said to me that he often gets accused of misleading women because he is so affectionate, intimate, connected when he's with them, but so avoidant that doesn't want anything more, right? And then they, of course, like when a woman, I mean, let's face it, the vast majority of women are starved of affection and attention and intimacy and connection. And we're forced into this like people-pleasing role and like giving everything and having to be in a certain way and having to please our man, having to fucking do this and fucking do that. And when we're finally given like overflowing with affection and attention, we soak it up like a dehydrated sponge, like a parched sponge that's been living in the desert for 20 years, and then we want more. And we become overly needy. So he has this thing where he's like this certain way, but he doesn't want more. And he says that at the beginning, right? But then the way he is and the way he acts belies that. And then women get caught up in this thing, and he was like complaining about it, right? And I'm like, yeah, fuck, cool. I can understand how that might be frustrating for you. You just want this moment of intimacy and connection, and then they get all needy and blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, well, hang on. You didn't just manipulate me with a way of being. You manipulated me with your fucking words, with what you said to me. And you let me believe you were open to something which you were obviously never open to. And that fucked with me, right? So I let myself be angry. I let myself communicate that, but in a way where I took the story out. I wrote it first and I sat with it, and then I allowed the bits that were jarring, which were overly emotional or were about story or identity coming in, or manipulative, because I can be very manipulating, right? That is my thing, and I have to watch myself because my method of surviving as a child was to be manipulative to get what I wanted. So I sat with it and took the manipulation. I even got a girlfriend to read it first so she could like check, make sure that it was all just like, And then I sent it. And then, of course, he comes back with, well, that's really unfair. And like, you did this. Well, not even you did this, but you said this, and sends me screenshots of our conversation further on down the line where we were talking about having this conversation, making out that the conversation was my idea. I'm like, well, fucking stop 1 minute, buddy. Up here, it was your idea, right? Anyway, I just went back and said, yep, obviously you're allowed to have the life that you want. Obviously you're allowed this stuff. I was just trying to get you to understand something from my point of view for once. And, you know, basically, I still think all those amazing things I've always thought about you, still true. And, you know, I really hope that you find happiness one day. And then I'm pretty sure I got blocked. So then the next layer comes in, right? Because, you know, a few hours later, I'm over it. I'm angry, but I'm realizing that the depth of my anger, it's not really about him in this moment. It's about a whole childhood of not getting what I wanted, right? And I'm realizing this is the trigger, and I've created this because of some stuff I'm going through at the moment. And interestingly enough, a course that I actually started last night, which is a line with Chantel Raven and Tara Megan, the Tantra women I'm working under. And that this creation of this experience that I had dredged up is perfectly what I needed to get to work on through this here. So even when I was messaging him, I was observing myself within it, knowing that I was doing it for a certain reason. And it was because it was out of my comfort zone. So it was something that I would never normally do. I would never allow myself to do that, right? I would never allow myself to be put in a position where I could be blocked. Like I'm some sort of hysterical female, needy female, right? When in reality, I was just trying to like go, hey, why don't you just observe your shit within this and actually take some responsibility within it? I'm not trying to manipulate you into giving me what I want within this. I'm just trying to get you to see that the shit that you're creating, right? When he's not able to be within clarity within himself. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the background I'm not even going to go into because it's all just story, right? So, but here I am now. I'm this hysterical female. And I've been blocked. And oh my God, the pain that came with that. So all last night, I was just observing myself and allowing myself to yo-yo like pendulum between anger inside, well, holding space for myself, right? Holding the silence of the divine masculine for myself to be experiencing this within. And really what I'm wanting is for someone else to be with someone who can also do this as well for me. But so I'm doing it for myself. And I mean, I have to be able to do it for myself before I can actually ever have someone do it for me. So I'm holding this divine masculine spaciousness of safety for myself to feel what I need to feel within, and silence and non-judgment. And every time my mind interferes, I'm like observing that and putting it to the side and just allowing the anger or the pain. And the pain was excruciating. The pain, when I tapped into it, was a little girl in the corner, hunched over with her arms up, and she's just saying, please don't, 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 please, you know, just like, don't cut me off, don't cut me off, don't, just love me, love me, love me, love me, love me, please don't. And it was the little girl that had always had, when she disappointed and didn't do something the right way or didn't do exactly what was wanted, she had affection, attention withdrawn. And that was the way of the masculine processing. I don't think it was meant to be a form of punishment. I don't think that there was that much awareness within that. I think that it was just this such anger and like, just this withdrawal. And then this, oh my God, I can't be me and be loved. I'm not allowed to be me and be loved. And then I have to conform who I am and what I do and how I show up and what I say to be loved. And it was so painful in my body, in my emotions, that like just sitting with that pain and digging my way into it, because I find there's always a core, the belief, right? When you actually get to the core belief, if you can get down to what that is and really like almost like twisting the knife on purpose to really like, let this full energy into your body and express it and breathe through it so that you can move through it. So when this shit comes up, there's two ways to deal with it, right? There's either to willingly throw yourself into it and to go through the fire so that you can come out the other side with whatever realization you needed to have to realize that on this side, it wasn't true. or you can fucking resist it and create suffering. Because the suffering that we're in is not coming from the pain. The suffering is coming from resisting the pain. So I threw myself in, allowed it, breathed through it, cried, and just held myself through it. And then would swing back to the anger of not being fucking allowed to be who I am, right? And then throughout this, I realized that I was just creating my identity within this box of the space that was left for me. And I did this, since my childhood. I did it within my marriage, where when you have someone who isn't conscious and aware and able to hold space for you without things being, without making shit mean something about themselves, right? Well, you can't have your own thoughts and beliefs and stuff without them then like being impacted by that. And then this fight comes on, right? Where you're both like trying to be your own person and being allowed to be this. And then, you must like understand me, and no, you must understand me. And this thing that goes on, this struggle. When in reality, we're both allowed our beliefs and our identity and what we have, right? And there shouldn't be a fight about it. There should just be space holding and curiosity. And then a choice of, well, whether or not this aligns and how can we make it align, or is there compromise, or is this outside my boundary of what I'm willing to accept for myself? But because most of us never even know what our boundaries are or what we're willing to accept or what our wants and desires are, this is not what happens. It just becomes us trying to control the other person to make us feel safe. So I realized that I have been, even with everything I'm doing and all the growth I'm doing, I've still been showing up in a way of trying to fit into this shape. And it's almost like they get to be blah, like whatever shape they are. It's almost like something's fallen off the ceiling, like splat. And then I fill in the shape around that so that I can be there and be needed and be safe and get attention and affection, right? And I was still doing it to the point where when I actually, from this new place of having gone through the pain, examined what my wants had been, what I had decided I had wanted, it wasn't actually what I fucking wanted. It was what I thought I could have. It's me manipulating a situation to maybe if I say this is all I want, then maybe I'll actually get what I truly want, which is someone who sees how fucking amazing I am, can hold space for it, not try and change me, not try and control me, not try and fix me, and just wants me as I am and is fascinated by me. And just wants to get to know me, wants how my mind works, and doesn't have to be the same as me, right? But is not threatened by the differences between us, and then is able to hold space for me to show up in my magnificence and be able to be fully alive and live a life that I truly want, right? Which is kind of like this outward feeling. And what I've been creating is this inward feeling where I'm just like, okay, well, how can I have a taste of that and get it, right? Maybe if I say this is all I want, then maybe I'll be able to trick them into really like giving me what I really truly want, right? When the truth is, if I don't actually show up asking for what I want or hold space for what I want and stop accepting less than that, then I'm never fucking going to get what I want. And yeah, there's a lot of fear in that because part of me doesn't believe that there's anybody out there that can do that for me or match that or would actually want me. And then there's fear because I'm getting old. I'm 51 years old and I'm only now just coming into that, like the truth of who I am. And when I look around at all these beautiful young women out there and I think, well, why would someone want me? So instead of like staying true to myself, I've been creating this smaller container, hoping that I can have what I want by saying that I want less than I actually do. So really what I was going for was crumbs again, even after all the work I've put in and all my realization of this, I was actually asking for crumbs rather than the full fucking cake plus the icing, right? And an extra bowl of icing on the side. So I have sat with this, breathed into it, breathed through the pain and that feeling of not being safe. It's almost like the being blocked, the being cut off. It's like this, oh, no, please, 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 I'll do whatever you need. I'll be whatever you need. Just don't cut me off, right? It's, oh my God. Breathe through that. And to the point of, okay, somebody thinks I'm a hysterical female just because I expressed my anger and fucking like held their shit up in front of them. That's okay. Do I really want that person in my life? I thought I did, right? It's weird, kind of flipping about like to that. Well, no, because they're not actually fucking what I need. They're not able to hold me as I really am. And I have to change my shape to be with them. Well, why the fuck would I want that? Sorry, a lot of swearing today. So instead of that, I'm now holding space for myself to maybe never have what I truly want, but to not compromise on that, but to be met in this space of what I am. And it was actually the realizations that I had came from me holding myself in an energy of what I truly wanted in someone and realizing that actually what I had said I wanted was not even a fraction of it. It was just like a smudge compared to what I truly want, which is something amazing and magnificent. And I want to be with someone that I can grow with and expand with and actually talk to about these things and who's can understand it and who'd be fascinated by the process I'm going through, as opposed to like, you're like, thinking a bit too hard, aren't you? And it's so interesting because, my ex-husband, God bless his cotton socks, when I used to tell him stuff about, when I was studying hypnotherapy and like a process that we'd all been through. And I would tell him this stuff because I was trying to, I knew that it was pertinent to him and that he had the same thing. So I would tell him about an experience and then you could see him contract. And then he would go, oh, you're hanging on a bit hard, aren't you? And I'm like, oh, don't think so. I think we're moving through our stuff. And it's that like that contraction and that inability to even conceive that there is something to go into there that creates the suffering. And in the end, that's what our separation was. It was like him stuck in his suffering and blaming me for everything. I mean, that's a broad generalization statement there, right? There was intricacies there. But, basically blaming the world, being in victim mentality, blaming everybody else and like, coming out like, having to like guard and victim because he's like holding on and resisting going into what's there. And me like willingly throwing myself off the cliff again and again and again and going into the pain of the fire and expanding until we were no longer compatible, our energies, even though he's a beautiful person and a beautiful man and has a kind heart. He couldn't allow me to be what I wanted to be and instead would try and control me to be what made him feel safe. So yeah, I'm going to hold space for what I actually want and not accept less, while also holding space for myself to be in the pain of the fact that I might never get that. And yeah, maybe I will be alone forever. Because I would rather that now than keep like almost like I've been clipping my own wings. Like I'm a bird and I'm clipping my own fucking flight with feathers, right? So I can't truly soar and fly because I've just been trying to get what I thought I could have as opposed to experience what I truly want. Anyway, I hope you got something out of that. Last week I shared something really exciting. I shared about how my girlfriend Shanna and I had purchased a shop. So one of my truly best friends, blessed to have her in my life. And I wanted to show you. So we've just created, she hasn't even seen these yet. I've just taken them out of the electroforming solution. And look, aren't they pretty? Actually, let me turn them around. I'm going to hold them up. So this is the sort of stuff we're making. And then we're just making them in my laundry, which is so much fun. Look at this beautiful pendant. So this, Shana did these too. They're gorgeous. And this is mine. So at the moment, they've got latex on them. So they're a little bit, the crystals aren't shining like they're going to. So yeah, making rings and stuff as well, just with beautiful crystals. And we're going to be on our Facebook page and Instagram page and stuff, actually starting to talk about crystals and how to care for them and how to energize them, how to cleanse them. So I'm really looking forward to creating that sort of side too, because I love them. If you come into my my place, you'll see crystals everywhere. But I wanted to say too that the shop is up and running. So if you were interested in just having a look, and I'm not saying you have to buy anything, but just curious about what we're creating, if you go to savagebohostudio.com/shop, that's going to take you to either our Etsy shop, or if we're somewhere else by the time you're watching this, go have a look. And if you do want to buy something, I'm going to set up a special discount code for you, just YouTube. That's going to give you 10% off in our shop for whatever you want to get. So it's my gift to you, my thank you to you for showing up for yourself, for being on the journey, and for watching my videos and listening to my content. And I really, I actually logged on to my podcast the other day, and I saw how many people had listened to my podcast last week, and I was really moved. I actually cried a little bit because it just made me feel really good that people wanted to hear what I had to say and who were interested in the journey. And I just want to say thank you and honor you for showing up. And I hope that you are getting something out of my journey and what I'm learning and what I'm sharing with you. Anyway, I will see you in the next video.